The nature of humanity is selfish. Whoever understands their own selfish nature can understand the nature of humanity. And only when one understands the nature of humanity can one stand firm at the pinnacle. Dear friend, to evaluate the shift between good and evil in human nature, we must look at self-interest. When there is no relationship tied to self-interest, human nature is good. As soon as self-interest appears, human nature becomes selfish. If the self-interest is great enough, human nature turns evil. What I'm saying may be hard to hear, especially since it's not easy to accept. So please remember to read until the end to fully grasp the wisdom of the ancients. Greetings to you all, dear friends. What do you think? Is human nature good or evil? From childhood to adulthood, many things we've learned tell us that human nature is good. Therefore, we've defined humanity. Humans are kind, grateful, value relationships, uphold righteousness, know gratitude and repayment, possess noble virtues. In the world of childhood, truly, most people are embodiments of perfection, such as the bond between teachers and students, friends, and first loves. Because at that time, our relationships were fundamentally free of self-interest, so you were blinded by illusions. But when you step into society, your relationships begin to involve self-interest. You'll discover their actions completely contradict what you learned before. Friends borrow money and don't repay, lovers cheat, business partners betray, colleagues stab you in the back, siblings fight over inheritance, caring little for their parents' life or death. When their behavior doesn't match what you learned as a child, you start getting hurt by them, and your pain begins to persist. Is human nature good or bad? We can look at it from several angles. If human nature is inherently good, then why do the three major religions, Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, establish so many rules to restrict human behavior? We all know Buddhism has numerous precepts. For example, no killing, no eating meat, no touching women, and so on. If human nature were truly good, why would we need to treat at birth human nature is good as a classic doctrine? If human nature were truly good, then why does every nation need laws to restrict human behavior? So, remember this. Human nature isn't good. That's why we need moral classics and laws to collectively maintain societal stability. Looking at human nature through the lens of instinct, everyone who's been a parent knows. When your child is still an infant, beyond appearing gentle and lovable, you'll notice that sometimes their behavior shows no trace of kindness. An infant's belief is simple, summed up in 8 words. Those who please me are friends. Those who defy me are foes. Meaning, infants are born self-centered. They don't put themselves in your shoes to consider you. Whenever they want something, they'll take it. If they can't get it, they'll cry. If crying doesn't work, they'll cry louder until they get what they want. This selfish mindset in young children isn't taught by anyone, it's innate. So, is human nature good or bad? I'll tell you, human nature isn't good, nor is it bad. It's selfish. Every word or action of a person is merely to satisfy their own self-interest. This example will help you understand better. Suppose I and Xiao may have been in a relationship for 5 years. In reality, during those 5 years, I didn't love Xiao Mei at all. I just didn't have a girlfriend, and since I was single anyway, having someone care for me was better than having no one. So, I reluctantly loved Xiao Mei. In contrast, Xiao Mei loved me to death and back. I was the man she loved most in her life. No one else compared. Just seeing me, she'd be overjoyed. Just being by my side, she'd be as happy as a goddess. So, in those 5 years of being together with Xiao Mei, you can imagine, no need to say it, Xiao Mei surely took care of me. She could walk kilometers to buy chicken soup for me to drink. She could cut back on her own, spending to buy clothes for me. She even tricked her parents out of money to help me start a business. In short, during those 5 years, Xiao Mei's world revolved around me, and she sacrificed everything for me. The result, after 5 years, for some reasons, our love couldn't continue. Xiao Mei and I broke up, and since I was the one who suggested breaking up first at that moment, the whole world, including Xiao Mei, cursed me as a villain, saying I wasn't a man. Some said I didn't deserve to be human. Others even called me a beast. And Xiao Mei cursed me even harsher. She said, "Don't you remember there was a time I walked kilometers just to cook you a pot of soup? Don't you remember there was a year I didn't buy a single thing for myself, but willingly bought you a whole wardrobe? Don't you remember I deceived my parents for money to help you start business, causing a rift between me and my family? You're not a man. Anyway, I became a rat crossing the street, shouted at by everyone, unable to leave the house, scolded to the point I couldn't bear it. Let's seriously analyze this issue. From the perspective of conventional morality, indeed, I did wrong. I'm a jerk, a beast, despised by the whole world. I have nothing to say. Let's analyze it from the perspective of human nature. First, Xiao Mei and I were together for 5 years. I didn't love Xiao Mei at all, but Xiao Mei loved me to death. You can imagine, I stayed with someone I didn't love for 5 years, while Xiao Mei stayed with the person she loved most for 5 years. Clearly, in those 5 years, I had to face someone I didn't love every day. How much suffering did I endure? Meanwhile, Xiao Mei could be with the one she loved most. I can assure you, Xiao Mei lived very happily during those 5 years. Second, as Xiao Mei said, she sacrificed so much for me. She walked kilometers to buy chicken, just to cook me a pot of chicken soup. So, when she handed me that pot of soup, who was happy? Who was suffering? To me, it was just a bowl of chicken soup. No matter who made it, it was the same. But for Xiao Mei, it was different. She saw the person she loved most drinking her soup. She smiled so happily. Her heart felt so sweet. She felt all her sacrifices were worth it. She did everything without regret. Everyone realized this truth. In those 5 years, everything she did for me, I never forced her. She did it all willingly. Why did she do it willingly? Because when she sacrificed for the one she loved, she felt immense happiness. Pay attention to this sentence. Everything she sacrificed could make her feel immensely happy. So, from the perspective of human nature's selfishness, all her sacrifices were just to make herself happy. On the surface, she did so much for me, but in reality, she was doing it for her own happiness. So, morally, she's a good person, I'm a jerk. But the truth is, during those 5 years, I lived in suffering while Xiao Mei could be with the one she loved and even sacrifice for the one she loved most. She lived very happily during those 5 years. So, the truth is I endured 5 years of suffering so she could have 5 years of happiness. Though I'm not that much of a jerk, I don't condone such behavior in men either. But through this story, I believe everyone can, for the first time, see the truth of the matter. Why was Xiao Mei in pain? Why did everyone call me a jerk? Because most people in this world live in a sweet fantasy every day, knowing nothing about the truth of human nature. Human nature is selfish. Whoever understands their own selfish nature can understand the nature of humanity. And only when one understands the nature of humanity can one stand firm at the pinnacle. To evaluate the shift between good and evil in human nature, we must look at self-interest. When there's no relationship tied to self-interest, human nature is good. As soon as self-interest appears, human nature becomes selfish. If the self-interest is great enough, human nature turns evil. Let me tell you a story. My mother has 6 siblings, 1 older sister, 1 younger brother, and 3 younger sisters, and my mother is 63 years old this year. Among them, 4 siblings bought a piece of land in our hometown to build a house, hoping to live together and enjoy family happiness. But they also had a big worry, fearing that living together long-term would lead to conflicts over trivial matters. My mother asked for my opinion, and I told her, the siblings were all born from the same womb, and even the youngest is past the age of doubt. So, for daily trivial matters, everyone will be understanding of each other. And Mom, you should feel at ease living happily with them in your final years. When I said this to my mom, my grandmother had passed away a few years ago, and her estate had been settled. Though my grandmother wasn't wealthy, a house and some cash in the countryside were still significant. Since my grandmother's estate had been settled, I believe the siblings wouldn't face major conflicts of interest while living together. If my grandmother and her estate were still around, I find it hard to predict the outcome. They might have had major conflicts over it. In fact, when my grandmother passed away a few years ago, the division of her estate left them unhappy, and some siblings had disputes, but fortunately, wasn't too serious. The one who caused the most conflict was my uncle, because he's the son. According to rural, feudal thinking, my uncle believed all of my grandmother's estate should belong to him. Note, my grandmother divided the estate equally, and my uncle only got slightly more. My grandmother had been bedridden for over a year, and my uncle never visited, only showing up after she passed. My aunts were furious, but I know my uncle's actions align with human nature, the nature of seeking gain and avoiding loss in people. Note, their relationship has now been mended. So, whether it's family, friends, or lovers, no matter how good they are, you can't fully trust them. Because once there's a conflict of interest, these people will surely hurt you the deepest. The greater the self-interest, the more selfish human nature becomes. And when selfishness reaches a certain level, human nature turns evil. Look at all the ancient kings fighting. You can't see a trace of goodness, likely Shimon's Xuanwu Gate coup, killing his own brothers, or Wu Ziqian even killing her own child. Next, I'll briefly discuss the philosophy of 9 deaths, 1 life. In 1993, 2 10-year-old boys, uneducated, decided to kidnap a 2-year-old boy to play with, and ended up brutally killing him. Afterward, they were arrested by the police. One of them, named John, admitted it, not denying he killed the child. The other pushed all the blame onto John, clearing himself of all guilt, clearly showing human nature's selfishness, always seeking gain and avoiding harm. This was a murder case that shocked Liverpool, England, and later, the story was adapted into a short film called Detainment, even nominated for an Oscar. All thoughts about human goodness or evil start from perception. If you believe human nature is good, you'll assume everyone is a good person. If you believe human nature is evil, you'll assume everyone is a bad person. For example, 10 friends. If you assume all 10 are good people, you'll expect them to treat you well every day. If one day, one of those 10 friends betrays you, you surely won't bear the pain, and living like that will keep you in misery. This philosophy of life is called 9 lives, 1 death. Conversely, if you assume all 10 of those friends aren't good people, you'll have no expectations of them. I'm talking about an assumption in your heart. If one day, unexpectedly, one treats you well, you'll feel like you've won the lottery, and this sudden joy will make your life happier. This philosophy of life is called 9 deaths, 1 life. I've noticed most people prefer living by 9 lives, 1 death. Like many couples when they marry, they often assume their marriage will be happy, promising each other a beautiful love, living together until their hair turns white, never parting. If one day they divorce, this couple easily turns into enemies, hating each other to death, never meeting again. I encourage those getting married to hold the mindset of 9 deaths, 1 life. Don't let fairy tale love stories cloud your wisdom. If from the start you don't assume everything will be perfect, divorce will be within your expectations, and you won't feel pained. If you can live together until your hair turns white, that'll be a pleasant surprise, right? But honestly, few people in this world have that kind of wisdom.